If you'd asked me about my life 2 years ago, I would have told you it was pretty normal. Not Instagram perfect, but safe, predictable. I lived with my mom in this small, yellow-sided house that always smelled like cinnamon and lemon cleaner. We had a backyard with a cranky old swing set, and our neighbor's dog barked like clockwork every morning at 7. I worked part-time at an indie bookstore down on Main, a place with creaky wooden floors and a resident cat who liked to knock over the poetry section. My days went from shelving hardcovers to making grilled cheese with my mom, trading little jokes when we were both tired from work. But lately, things between us weren't as easy as they used to be. I'd catch her staring at me a little too long when she thought I wasn't looking, or she'd start to say something and then swallow her words and busy herself with the dishes. I chalked it up to stress. Her job at the clinic was always demanding, but there was a tension in the air, something quietly humming in the background of our routine. Like a kettle just on the verge of whistling. Still, I convinced myself we were fine. That our world would keep spinning in its gentle, slightly offbeat orbit. That night 2 years ago, though, cracked something open. I'd come home late from the bookstore, rain soaking through my shoes, and as I towed them off quietly by the door, I heard my mom's voice from the kitchen. She was on the phone, her voice low, urgent. I froze, just out of sight, listening. "I can't let her find out," my mom whispered, almost hissing. "No, the letter stays hidden, she should never see it. Not now, not ever." My stomach dropped. I pressed my hand to the wall to steady myself. There was a silence, broken only by the soft clink of her spoon hitting the mug. I didn't recognize her voice in that moment, so secretive, so scared. I had never heard my mother talk like that. Something about the way she said, the letter, like it was radioactive, made my skin prickle. I tiptoed upstairs, every stair creaking just enough to make me wince, and lay awake staring at the ceiling for hours. That was the night I started to wonder if I really knew my mom at all. For weeks after, the words echoed in my head, she should never see it. I tried to let it go, but the curiosity gnawed at me. Finally one afternoon, when my mom was working late, I started searching. Guilt tangled up in my chest, but I couldn't help it. I needed to know what was so important that my mom would lie to me. I tore quietly through drawers, scanned the closet shelves, even checked under loose floorboards in the hallway. My heart thudded in my ears every time a car passed outside. I almost gave up, but then, tucked between the pages of an old photo album in the far corner of her closet, I found it. A plain white envelope, sealed, with my name written in my mom's handwriting that looked shakier than usual. My hands shook as I turned it over. I could almost feel the weight of whatever was inside burning through the paper. But somehow, I stopped myself from tearing it open. I couldn't explain why, fear, maybe, or loyalty, or just the sense that opening it would change everything. So I slid it back, buried in the album, and tried to pretend nothing had changed. But things did change. I started noticing the way my mom avoided certain topics, or how she'd glance at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes, at night, I'd hear her pacing in the hallway, or catch the soft glow of her phone through the crack in her bedroom door. The cinnamon and lemon scent that always felt comforting now seemed almost too strong, like it was covering something up. I wish I could say I confronted her, but I didn't. I just let the secret sit between us, growing heavier every day. The letter became a sort of ghost. I knew where it was, and I knew it was meant for me, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it again. Sometimes, I'd find myself staring at the old photo album, wondering what words waited for me inside that envelope. Lately, though, the unease has been worse. My mom's been more distant, like she's living in a world just out of reach. We don't laugh as much. She cancels our movie nights, stays late at work, and sighs a lot when she thinks I can't hear her. Even the bookstore feels different, like every customer could be someone who knows more about me than I do. It was in this state, half obsessed, half scared, that the real shock hit. Last night, as thunder rattled the windows, someone knocked at our door. When I opened it, a stranger stood there, rainwater dripping from his jacket. And in his hand was the letter I'd buried 2 years ago, still sealed, still addressed to me. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Are you ready to know the truth?" It was just after midnight and the city was still except for the hum behind our apartment walls, the elevator cables, the wind sneaking through the cracks, a car horn far down the block. My mom had just turned in, and I was zoning out at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone, when the buzzer jolted me upright. I thought it was a glitch at first, maybe someone drunk pressing all the call buttons. But then it buzzed again, more insistent this time, echoing down the hallway. I padded barefoot over the cold tile, heart picking up. Nobody ever visited us this late. I pressed the intercom, my voice catching. "Hello?" I said. A pause. Then a man's voice, low and clear. "I need to speak with you. It's about something you lost a long time ago." That sentence chilled me right down to my bones. I unlocked the 2 deadbolts, each click echoing in the silent apartment, and opened the door a crack. There he stood, a man in his 40s, maybe early 50s, with thick glasses and a heavy wool coat despite the muggy air. In his hand, an envelope, yellowed and familiar, my mother's handwriting right on the front. He didn't try to come inside. Instead, he held the letter up, almost reverently, as if it would crumble if he gripped it too tight. "Are you?" He glanced at the envelope, "Alexandra?" I nodded, mouth dry. The fluorescent hallway light flickered, making his face look hollow. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'll explain," he said softly. "But only if we talk alone." My mother's footsteps thundered behind me. "Alex," she called, voice tight with fear. "Who is it?" The stranger stepped back, glancing at her as she appeared in the doorway. Her eyes went straight to the envelope and then to his face, and something shifted in her expression. I'd never seen my mom scared like that before. "Get out," she hissed. "You can't be here." He didn't flinch. "I'm not here to cause trouble. But Alexandra has a right to know." I stepped between them, heart pounding, fighting an urge to slam the door shut or just run. The wool of his coat brushed my arm as he turned his attention to me, his gaze softening for just a second. My mom pushed past me, planting herself in the doorway. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but you have no right." He cut her off, his voice suddenly sharp. "I know about the hospital. About July 2005. About Dr. Basanti." He paused, eyes on me now. "And I know what was in the safe under the stairs." The world seemed to tilt under me. My mom reeled, and I saw her knees tremble. The stranger's words weren't random. He knew things, intimate, hidden things only we would know. "Who are you?" I whispered, the words barely making it out. He looked at my mom, then back at me. "Someone who should have been in your life a long time ago." The air was thick and electric, like a storm pressing in around us. My mom's jaw set, but there was fear in her eyes, real, splintering fear. "You need to leave," she said, her voice cracking. The stranger shook his head. "Alexandra deserves to know who she is. You promised to tell her when the time was right. 2 years ago, you almost did." He raised the envelope, the paper trembling now. "This is her letter, not yours." Before anyone could react, he pressed the envelope into my hand. His fingers were warm, surprisingly gentle. "Read it," he said. "But be ready. The truth is heavier than you think." He stepped back, gave my mom a look heavy with regret, then turned and walked down the hall. The echoes of his boots faded into the hum of the elevator in the night. I stood there in a daze, the envelope burning in my palm. My mother's face was ashen, her eyes rimmed with red. "Please," she whispered, "don't open it." I stared at the letter, my name written in blue ink, the familiar curve of my mom's handwriting. My fingers shook as I tore it open. The paper inside was thick and creased, the ink faded in places. I could smell faint perfume, something floral and old. Mom lunged for it, but I stepped back, voice shaking. "No, I need to know." Her shoulders slumped, and she backed against the wall, hands covering her face. I unfolded the letter. My vision swam as I read. "Dearest Alexandra, there are things I kept hidden from you because I wanted to protect you. You are loved, more than you can imagine, but you are not my biological child. I adopted you in August 2005, under circumstances that were never meant to be public. I took you home from the hospital the night you were born, because your family was in danger. I promised your birth family I would keep you safe and tell you the truth when you were ready." The words blurred, and I pressed my palm against my mouth. My heart hammered so loud it drowned out everything else. I read the rest in a haze, details about a woman named Elena, a promise made, people searching for me, a threat never explained. When I looked up, my mom was crying, silently, lips pressed tight. I crumpled into the kitchen chair, the letter trembling in my hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice broke on the question. She sat across from me, hands twisting in her lap. "I wanted to, Alex. I thought I could find the right time. But every year, it got harder. I was afraid. I wanted to keep you safe." "Safe from what?" The question ripped out of me, sharp and raw. She wiped her face, voice shaking. "From them. From the people who wanted to take you. Your birth family, they weren't just ordinary people, Alex. There was a reason you had to disappear." I stared at her, the letter still warm from my grip. My skin prickled with goosebumps. The kitchen lights seemed too bright, buzzing above us. "Who is he?" I asked. "The man with the letter?" She swallowed, a hard lump in her throat. That's your birth uncle. His name is Victor. He's been looking for you since the night you were born. He was supposed to protect you after your mother, Elena, died. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe. The room swayed, the air thick with the smell of old paper and my mom's perfume. I wanted to scream, or run, or just disappear. Instead, I held the letter tight and forced myself not to cry. Why now? I asked. Why did he find us now? She shook her head. I don't know. We moved so many times. I thought we lost them. I thought you'd be safe here. I dug my nails into my palm, searching my mom's face for some crack, some sign she was lying or this was all a nightmare. But her eyes were wide and scared and honest. I pushed the letter toward her, my voice barely above a whisper. Tell me everything. She closed her eyes, took a shaky breath, and began. Your birth mother came to me in the middle of the night. She was desperate. She said someone was after her, and she begged me to hide you. I agreed, thinking it would only be for a little while. But then she died, suddenly, violently. Victor was away, and by the time he came back, it was too late. I'd already filed the papers, changed your name, and promised I'd never let anyone find you. I tried to imagine my mother, gentle, careful, always worried, making that kind of choice. It didn't fit. Nothing fit anymore. Why did they want me? I asked. She shook her head, tears shining in the kitchen light. There was something about your family. I never knew what. But Victor, he knows. He tried to find you, but I kept you hidden. I thought I was doing the right thing. I pressed my fingers to my eyes until I saw stars. You lied to me. My whole life. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm so sorry. The words echoed in the small kitchen, mingling with the hum of the fridge and the tick of the old clock on the wall. A wave of anger swept over me, hot and dizzying. I need to talk to him, I said. I need answers you won't give me. She started to protest, but I was already on my feet, grabbing my phone and the letter, heading for the door. The hallway was cold, and the carpet rough beneath my feet as I hurried down the stairs. I dialed the number scrawled at the bottom of the letter, Victor's number. My thumb hovered over the call button, my heart thrumming in my ears. He answered on the second ring. Alexandra? His voice was different now, gentler, almost relieved. It's me, I said, not trusting myself to say more. I know you have questions, Victor said quietly. I'll tell you everything, but you need to understand, you're not who you think you are. There's more you don't know. I leaned against the stairwell wall, feeling the cool plaster against my back, trying to steady my breathing. What do you mean? I whispered. He hesitated, and I heard the faint sound of traffic on his end, a distant siren. Your birth family, we weren't just protecting you from random danger. There's something in your past, something that changes everything. I can show you, but you'll need to decide who you want to be and which truth you're willing to live with. My mind reeled. I gripped the phone, my fingers cold and stiff. Where are you? I'm close by, he said. Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything, I promise. I hung up, my thoughts a swirling mess of memories, anger, and wild possibility. I looked back at my apartment door, the faint gold light leaking out under the threshold. My mom was in there, my whole old life was in there, and yet, it felt impossibly far away. I turned the letter over in my hands. The ink from my mom's signature had smudged, as if she'd been crying when she wrote it. The night air pressed in, thick and silent. I felt like I was standing on a ledge, staring down into the dark, about to jump, not knowing what I'd find when I landed. But I couldn't turn back. Not now, not when I was finally close to the truth. That was the moment I realized nothing would ever be the same. I'd have to decide who to trust, and which secrets I was brave enough to face. The living room felt impossibly small with both my mom and the stranger, Daniel, sitting across from me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I gripped my mug tighter, hoping the warmth would steady me. Daniel set the letter, still unopened, on the coffee table. His voice was gentle, but my heart pounded with every word. I know this is a lot, he began, glancing at my mom. You deserve the truth, not just about the letter, but about everything. My mom's eyes glistened. You were never supposed to get hurt, she whispered, her voice choked. But we can't keep hiding. Not anymore. Daniel explained what my mom couldn't say out loud. Years ago, before I was born, my biological parents were caught up in something dangerous, a tangled mess involving a powerful man who didn't want anyone knowing about me. For my safety, my mom had hidden me, changed her name, and cut ties with everyone. The letter was a final goodbye from my birth mother, but my mom could never bring herself to give it to me, or destroy it. Instead, she kept it hidden. Until now. Your birth mother, she never stopped looking for you, Daniel said, his fingers tracing the edge of the envelope. But every time she got close, something scared her off. She asked me to try one last time. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the sound of rain tapping against the window. I stared at the letter, my breath shallow. Why now? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked at me with something like sympathy. Because the man responsible, he's finally gone. There's no risk anymore. You're safe. And you deserve to know where you come from. My mom reached for my hand. Her skin was cool, her grip trembling. I wanted to tell you so many times. But I couldn't lose you. I looked between them, my mind spinning with questions. The stranger who'd seemed so mysterious now felt more like a bridge to a life I'd never known. The truth was out. The danger had passed. But what was I supposed to do with all of this? That night, after Daniel left, I sat on my bed with the letter in my lap, the paper soft at the edges from years of being handled, but never read. My mom lingered in my doorway. I could feel her eyes on me, waiting, hoping. I broke the seal and unfolded the paper inside. My birth mother's handwriting was looping, uncertain in places. She wrote that she loved me, that she'd fought to keep me safe, and that if I ever read her words, I should know I was never abandoned. She hoped I'd forgive her. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaking my cheeks, the ink smudging under my fingers. The next day, I made 3 calls. The first was to Daniel, asking him to arrange a meeting with my birth mother. The second was to my mom, who was staying with a friend, to tell her I wanted her there with me, if she could forgive me for needing answers. The third was to myself, standing in front of the mirror, promising that I'd let myself feel everything, anger, hope, grief, and not push any of it away. Meeting my birth mother was nothing like I imagined. She looked both familiar and utterly foreign, my eyes, her smile, the same nervous tapping of fingers on her jeans. She cried when she saw me but didn't try to rush our reunion. We talked for hours about nothing and everything. When I told her I needed time, she nodded, eyes full of understanding. There was no pressure, just possibility. At home, my mom and I sat together in the kitchen, the silence between us softer than before. We'd both made mistakes, hers out of fear, mine out of desperation for truth. But now there was space for honesty, and maybe, forgiveness. I still don't know what my future looks like. Some days I feel pulled in 2 directions, other days, I feel like I'm finally whole. Family, I'm learning, isn't just about blood or secrets. It's about who stays, who tries, and who listens, even when the truth hurts. Trust isn't something I hand out freely anymore. But I'm learning that letting people in means risking everything, and sometimes, that's the bravest thing you can do. My story isn't over, if anything, it's just beginning. And I'm finally ready to write the next chapter, whatever it looks like.